today's View, I'm joined now by Alistair McCaig, market analyst at IG. Alistair, thank you very much for joining us. First off, do you think that this was the best solution? You know, some are saying that perhaps we needed to see a real breakup.
Well, it's a very good question, and I guess it really depends on what angle you're coming from. You'd have to believe that the government probably would have been more hopeful to strip the two off. Certainly make it a more attractive proposition to ultimately do an IPO and extract themselves from the bank. As far as the shareholders are concerned, ultimately, maybe. I think we're likely to see quite a bit of painful announcements in the next couple of years as far as their quarterly and annual figures are concerned, which will make some pretty poor headlines, you'd imagine. But ultimately, in the longer term, this may well end up being a better plan for them.
Would a wholesale split of the bank, would that have made it easier actually for the government to actually sell stake in RBS, you think?
Well, I guess it's the liability side of the equation, which would have been considerably clearer and, quite frankly, considerably smaller as well, and would have given the potential fresh investors in the IPO a little bit more of a calmer mentality when looking to invest in this bank. I think what we're going to have to see, certainly these third quarter figures have seen a pre-tax loss of 634 million. It's likely that fourth quarter losses are going to probably come into the billions, 4 to 4.5 billion, and that makes for a considerably less appealing proposition as far as investors are concerned. But it does really highlight the fact that they have a very ambitious plan to run down between 55 and 70% of these bad assets in the next 2 years, and looking to ultimately have run them all down within 3 years. That's a pretty ambitious target.
You know, many are critical that the government took too long to actually go through with this solution. Do you think that it's justified?
I think it is probably too long, but I think it would be fair to say as well that when the government effectively bailed out RBS, RBS themselves probably weren't fully understanding of exactly where they stood. So if you're looking to build a construction, a business, you really need to know what kind of foundations you have, and I think probably it took them a little while to get a clear picture as to exactly what those foundations were. And then ultimately, you weren't just dealing with one party needing to get their heads around what was the best plan going forward. You had three parties. You had the Chancellor, George Osborne. You had the Bank of England as well, which has seen a change in governorship there. And then ultimately you had Royal Bank of Scotland, which has also seen its CEO change in the last couple of years. So it's probably more complicated, and business and politics don't always necessarily have the best of relationships.